New Year! Oh my goodness, it's finally 2021. I honestly feel like I can't even believe I'm saying that. Like 2020 has been the wildest year. And of course you know that, everyone knows that. It's been a crazy time for everyone. But we made it to New Year, and I know that that doesn't mean that everything's gonna be fixed, and I know that that doesn't mean there's gonna be like a big reset and everything's gonna get better, but I don't know, the new year always just feels like such a fresh start, and you know, we can kind of reevaluate how we've been doing and try to make some changes, and I feel like this year more than ever it's even more needed. I feel like of all the years, we're definitely warranted this year to celebrate that it's the new year, and by celebrate I mean sitting in your home, maybe reading some books, watching good movies, just staying with the people that are in your households. Please, God, do not go out and celebrate 2021 in a big group of people. You know, saying that's not going to do anything because I'm recording this early. So for you, it's 2021. For me, it's still 2020, but it's New Year's Eve now, so it's close enough. Everyone should get a huge pat on the back for making it through this year. There were so many things that were difficult that we had to work through, but we did it. If you're here, if you're watching this, that means you made it. And so I thought, what a better way to welcome the new year than to talk through my 2020 survival guide. So these are some of the things that really got me through 2020. I don't know what I would have done without them. Probably would have been a much harder year. So I thought I would highlight those and celebrate those things that I really appreciated. I definitely got this idea to make this video from Evelyn of the Internet. She is one of my favorite creators on this platform. She is so inspiring. Some of her videos are the most influential videos I've ever seen. You know, like have you ever sat down and watched something and then you immediately afterwards you're like, that kind of changed my life a little bit? That's this creator. She has so many videos like that, and I will link them down below. But especially what I'm gonna link down below is her video of she highlighted all the things that got her through 2020, and so that's what I'm gonna do. So look down there for her videos. I love them a lot. And with that said, let's get into it. Let's talk about my survival guide for 2020. So when I become a time traveler, which I fully intend to do, but when I become a time traveler, these are things that I'm going to tell people that they need to do at the beginning of 2020. I guess first, what I should talk about is, obviously this isn't specifically a book video. I have lots of New Year book videos planned. New Year book videos? Sure, Keely. I have lots of videos that are going to be coming up very soon. I have a December wrap up. I'm going to do my best and worst books of 2020, some 2020 reading stats. So many. I love New Year's, especially for just all the Booktube content. It's my favorite. I love seeing people's lists. So with that said, this video is not really specifically book related, but the first thing I want to talk about in my survival guide has to be Booktube and Bookstagram. These videos have been so fun to make, and I really liked that I had something to do, you know? So it gave me a routine kind of on the days I did want to film. Like I would have to film and get all get everything ready for the filming and edit everything and make sure I upload it, and that was just so helpful in a time where I felt like I didn't really have a routine, so making a routine was really helpful for me, and Booktube and Bookstagram definitely had a part in that. And you know, I'm so excited to continue 2021 to whatever degree. I'm gonna keep making these videos or making posts because, like I said, it's so fun. It gives me, you know, an outlet, a creative outlet is really what I was missing from 2020 and missing for a while. So yeah, that's the first one on my survival guide. I'm so grateful that I got to make these videos and do these things. It's been really fun and has definitely made 2020 bearable. The second thing that is in my survival guide is the great outdoors. I mean, I'm gonna say this for each of these, but this one truly, I don't know what I would have done if I didn't have access to nature in the way that I did. I was extremely lucky that I lived somewhere where just a block away I had the most amazing access to nature and trails, so many trails, so long, and I could just go and get lost for a bit. And I know that not everyone had that in 2020. And, you know, I'm just so fortunate, and I was so thankful for it. I made it a point where every single day I went out and I walked on these trails, and it so helped, and they were so beautiful. I'm gonna pop some pictures or maybe videos up on what I was able to do and what I was able to see. I was just incredible. Living in a city like DC has more of an access to nature than I think you would anticipate, but you know, a city's hard. There's not that much there's lots of concrete, and I've never lived in a city before, so I was kind of jarring, but I was just so fortunate with where I was living. And then now that I'm back in California, of course, I have access to that as well, so maybe I'll put some ocean pictures. But that truly, I think, was so helpful for me to just kind of just get out of the house and take some deep breaths of fresh air. It was so important. So while on these walks, I'm not going to pretend that I was completely one with nature and, you know, was completely unplugged, just listen to the sounds. Like, no, I couldn't do that. A big theme of 2020 was not being able to turn my brain off. So when I went on these walks, I always had a podcast in. So podcast is the next in my toolbox of how to survive 2020. I truly needed just having, you know, the conversation going. You know, I wasn't able to go into work and talk to people, and I didn't have as much access to like other people as I usually do. So I feel like podcasts were really helpful to just kind of feel like I was a part of a conversation. And I listen to so many podcasts. Well, no, that's a lie. I listen to 2 podcasts, but I listen to a lot of those 2 podcasts. So the 2 podcasts I listen to are Dear Hank and John, which is the podcast with John and Hank Green, who I've been watching for years on YouTube and kind of just following everything that they do. But I really love their podcast. They have an advice podcast where they just kind of answer people's questions, and it's often hilarious and sincere and perfect. It was just so good to just have them going in my mind. And then the other podcast in my mind had them go, I'm not changing that, whatever. Okay. And then the other podcast I listened to a lot was My Favorite Murder. And I really feel like My Favorite Murder, they did a lot for me this year, thank God. So I didn't actually start listening to them until the summer, I think maybe August, but I listened to them so much. And it felt like I was a part of a conversation. So I guess I should say My Favorite Murder is a podcast with 2 women, Georgia Hardstark and Karen Kilgariff, and it's a true crime podcast. So they each have a true crime story to talk about. My favorite part of this podcast, beyond the true crime, is that in the beginning of each podcast, they kind of just chat and catch up and be like, what have you been up to? What do you recommend listening or watching? And they just have like a little chatty part, and that part is what got me through. That part was my favorite. It felt like I was sitting with 2 friends and just chatting, and it was so valuable to me to have that throughout this year. And like I said, it was when I was on my walks that I would do that, and just listen to it if you haven't. And if you need some company, I highly recommend listening to that podcast. These podcasts really just helped me feel not alone. And I think that's very unique in podcasts, that they can feel like that you're with other people. So I really appreciated that. The next thing I'm going to talk about is audiobooks. So finally, it's a Booktube channel. You know, we got books behind me. Let's talk about some books. So I listen to so many audiobooks. I have never listened to so many audiobooks before. We'll talk about it in my end of the year stats, but just so many audiobooks. And I think it's hand in hand with podcasts. Audiobooks don't do as good of a job as making me feel not alone, but they're really good for when I can't just sit with my silence, sit with my thoughts. I need something going on. So audiobooks were really good for that. Especially, I sometimes struggled this year with not being able or wanting to sit down and just read a book because I, felt anxious and wanted to be doing something else, like playing a game. I needed to be able to more passively read books while doing other things. Basically, it's what I really needed this year, and audiobooks were so helpful for that. A lot of my audiobook reading was done while I was playing my Switch, which was a very classic quarantine purchase. I got this towards the beginning of quarantine in, I think, March or April, maybe more April, but it's kind of a cliche, but it was so good to have, and I really enjoyed playing it. And like I said, audiobooks and this were really good. I only had 2 games on here. I got Stardew Valley and Breath of the Wild. Both I highly recommend. Stardew Valley is perfect for audiobook listening. Breath of the Wild, you kind of want to be more engaged in the game. This was such a good thing to have in my quarantine toolkit, and I'm so glad that I got to get my hands on it. It was a little difficult. You may remember there was a big scramble to get some Switches, but this was really fun. We're going to stay on the trend of listening to things. So the next thing I want to talk about is music. Music really helped me through this time. I mean, I always have been a big music listener. I listen every year, according to my Spotify Wrapped, I listen to more and more music. This year I got to 48,000 minutes this year, which was pretty great. I feel like now it's a goal to just continuously listen to more and more, but I feel like this year I was more intentional with my listening. Again, towards the beginning of the pandemic, I think around April or June or May, I don't know why I skipped May, but around then I decided to make a playlist of music that made me feel really comfortable and really made me think of childhood and what I listened to with my mom and my dad and family members, what was just kind of going on, and things that really gave me comfort. And that was a lot of kind of like folky music from like the 70s. I'm always bad at guessing the decades. It was a lot of Peter, Paul and Mary and Joan Baez and Joni Mitchell and Simon and Garfunkel. I got this record for Christmas and I'm so happy about it. I'm just, living my hipster life. Look at them. I love them. I feel like Simon and Garfunkel were special, like really good big staples for this time. I don't know, something about their music. It fully is because I grew up with my mom listening to this, and so it's just kind of like comforting. But that, my cozy folky playlist on Spotify, is my most listened to playlist by far, and I'm very proud of it. So maybe I'll link that down below if you're interested. But yes, music definitely helped me through 2020, as it does every year. But I feel like this year is especially. My last specific thing, I don't know why I'm gesturing because I certainly can't hold it, but what really got me through this year was my car. So I lived in DC. Well, I spent most of this year in DC, and then I had to move back to California, which is a story of itself. But so I lived in DC for a while, and when I first moved to DC, I had no use for a car. I did not need it. I didn't want to worry about parking in a city. I had amazing public transportation, so I didn't have a car. But then the pandemic hit and the public transportation almost grinded to the halt. And then also that's just not where you want to be when we're in a pandemic. You don't want to be in a space with strangers. So I was feeling really trapped in this huge city. Thankfully, my roommate, Alyssa, my really good friend, she had a car, so, she could take us places. But I really felt, like I said, trapped. There were just not that many places I could go, and it was hard when we're in a pandemic and I can't go anywhere. So long story short, my parents were kind enough to get my car shipped out to me. That was actually my birthday present. So they sent my car cross country, and so I was able to have my car in the city, which was so good. Like, it changed so much for my mental health. Like, just being able to feel like I could get up and go anywhere was so helpful. And just that little bit of independence and just, like I said, ability to go places is something that I completely took for granted before, and was so thankful that I could have back once I did have it. My favorite thing that I did with my car is I went to Shenandoah National Park, which is gorgeous and incredible, and I'm so grateful that I had that at my fingertips. It was only 2 hours away, which is nothing, to be able to go to this huge national park and go hiking. And a special part of that was that I didn't have phone service when I was up there, so that's truly when I unplugged and just listened to nature. I didn't listen to anything when I was out there, but that was so good. Some of my favorite memories from this year were going to that park and being able to go hiking. And it was also like a time of independence because I've been able to travel to like lots of parks in my life, but I've never done it by myself, and I've never done a big like hiking trip by myself. But this was a fun time because I got a backpack and I got my water. Like, my backpack was always so heavy because I needed to have everything with me, food, water, medical supplies in case something happened. It was just the craziest, most fun time. My first time hiking by myself there, I saw a bear, which was wild. I've never seen a bear before, let alone by myself. But that was just, being able to have Percy in my car and then being able to go to Shenandoah was just so special, and so important during this time. I really needed it and was grateful for it when I had it. Okay, to round off this list of my 2020 survival guide, I am going to talk about friends and family. Even though this year I couldn't be around so many people that I really wanted to and cared about and loved, I we made ways to do it, whether that was like Zoom calls, FaceTime, just anything like that. It was so important. And, as much as hard as it was to not be around certain people that I, usually am and are able to be, it was equally important to be able to have access through, like videos to talk to them. And that's something that like I thought about a lot at the beginning of the pandemic. I was like, this is hard. This is so hard. But, we're kind of in the best point in time in all of history to be in this pandemic, because at least we have so much we have this technology at our fingertips to be able to communicate and see each other. So my friend Mandy and I we only got through one season of Full House, but it's only because as much time as we watched Full House, we just spent time talking and not starting the show. So just having that and like looking forward to that all the time is so, so helpful. And then my friend Fiona and I, at the beginning of the pandemic, watched all of Star Wars, which I had never seen Star Wars before, and she's a big Star Wars fan. So that was so fun, and something that I will like cherish for the rest of my life is like that we did that and we had that experience. And I feel like we did that at a time when it was super needed. Like this was more towards, like I said, the very beginning in the spring, and I feel like everything was like extra scary and uncertain and terrifying, and like that's the first jolt of like, I'm not able to see people was then. And so to be able to have that to like watch all of them was so special. And even after that, we've still been watching movies. We have been making a list of movies that we want to watch, and then we'll pick one at random and watch it together. And then afterwards, we'll chat about it for a podcast. So we've recorded some podcast episodes. I haven't uploaded them yet because I haven't like quite figured that out, but I think we have about 3 of them that I've edited, and we have there of us discussing these movies. So that's been great. But yeah, like I said, even though I couldn't, be around as many people as I wanted to and see as many friends and family, like just still their presence through FaceTime and phone calls has been so needed. And I quite literally don't know what I would have done without it. That's it. That is my 2020 survival guide. These are the things that I used the most to get me through this year. And I know I'm a broken record, but I don't know what I would have done if I didn't have each and every one of these things. And I really liked thinking back and trying to think of the good things that got me through this year, because my God, I can make multiple videos on all the bad things. I feel like we all can, but it was really helpful, I think, for closure purposes, to kind of go through everything and talk about what got me through. So thank you for watching. Like I said, congratulate you for getting through this year. Truly, I feel like it's only up from here, right? Am I jinxing it? Probably, dear God, but we made it through this. Like, we have a great story now of making it through, and what else can't we do? We're so strong and so capable now. Everything is doable. I will be back soon with lots of end of the year videos, which I'm so excited to record. I'll see you later. Bye. At the beginning